One of my close friends once worked at Chuck E. Cheese, and he, along with his mischievous coworkers, embarked on an unconventional mission over several months. Their objective? To craft a full Chuck E. Cheese costume by slowly and stealthily gathering different pieces of the suit. How did they manage this feat? Well, they employed an ingenious plan. Whenever a part of the Chuck E. Cheese costume seemed to sustain damage, they would claim it was torn or somehow ruined due to children's mischievous antics. This scheme unfolded over months, and bit by bit, they collected various sections of the costume under the pretense of having to discard the damaged pieces. Eventually, through their creative and gradual approach, they successfully assembled the entire suit. Their goal was refreshingly simple. They wanted to make a big entrance at parties, astonishing their friends by showing up in the full Chuck E. Cheese suit. The thrill and amusement that would ripple through a gathering of inebriated partygoers at the sight of the lovable mascot strolling in was their desired outcome. The fruition of their plan was something they found incredibly amusing. They took turns playing the role of Chuck E. Cheese, showing up to social gatherings and parties much to the delight of their friends. Their carefree antics and ability to bring laughter and cheer to those around them were what made these endeavors truly worthwhile. It was all about the shared fun and the delight of creating unexpected joy in the lives of others. Working at Chuck E. Cheese for the first job can come with its fair share of unexpected and often bizarre incidents. One such peculiar occurrence involved a rather unhygienic behavior of some mischievous kids visiting the establishment. At the Chuck E. Cheese I was working in, there was this peculiar and attractive feature, the sky netting, a sort of roped structure akin to a bird's nest, suspended in the air. However, it became a rather peculiar target for a few unruly kids who found it an opportune place to relieve themselves. Yes, that's right. They took to the netting as a makeshift toilet. The unfortunate aspect was that, being a net, their droppings fell through and could land on unsuspecting individuals below. And it did, on more than one occasion. You can imagine the shock and dismay of the guests and staff alike. Having to deal with such incidents was both surprising and challenging, but we decided we needed a solution to prevent the unpleasant consequences. So a collective decision was made. The carousel ride, which had a roof, was repositioned directly beneath the bird's nest. This strategic move aimed to ensure that if any unexpected gifts were dropped, at least they'd land on the carousel roof, sparing anyone below from the unwelcome surprise. It was a quirky yet practical resolution to an unanticipated problem. Such odd encounters were not uncommon in a place filled with excited, sometimes mischievous, and unpredictable kids. But that's part of the job. Navigating through such unusual situations and finding creative ways to handle them, ensuring the best experience for everyone, despite the unexpected challenges that arose. Working at Chuck E. Cheese had its fair share of memorable moments, both delightful and nightmarish. Among the countless entertaining and joyous events that unfolded, there were a few that stand out, unfortunately for all the wrong reasons. The one incident that's etched in my memory is a pretty horrifying encounter with an inebriated lady, one of the many peculiar characters I encountered during my time there. I was around 15 years old when it all happened. I just started and was assigned to manage the game room floor. On this particular day, a customer, an older woman, approached me complaining about a machine that she insisted wasn't dispensing tickets correctly. As part of my duties, I got down to inspect the machine, but during the process, the situation took a completely unexpected turn. The woman, visibly drunk, became increasingly flirtatious, offering compliments and rubbing my back, which immediately set off alarm bells. Before I could react, her hands began to wander, crossing the line entirely by making an inappropriate move down the front of my pants. Shocked and unnerved, I managed to spring up from my seat, quickly inventing an excuse to dash to the back under the pretense of fetching tools. In reality, I had to inform the game's manager about what just occurred. When I eventually returned to the floor, The lady had departed, much to my relief. In retrospect, despite this unsettling experience, my time at Chuck E. Cheese was filled with wonderful memories and camaraderie among the staff, who were predominantly high school and young college students. The place was an epicenter for making friends and sharing great moments. And let's not forget the highlight, the amazing pizza that kept us going through the long hours. However, the anecdotes from this place aren't limited to the internal antics. Even the vicinity around the establishment became a theater for the bizarre. The day we witnessed a towing truck pulling away a car without checking if there were kids inside was certainly one for the books. The DMV next door was a hotspot for such incidents, and on this day, an impatient tow truck operator swooped in and started towing a vehicle that was parked in the fire lane. What he hadn't realized was there were kids in the back seat. My coworker and I were instantly alert and dashed out, screaming at the driver, who promptly dropped the car and fled. The anguished mother, finding her children unexpectedly in a towed car, was livid and understandably distressed. We summoned the authorities, and the driver eventually reappeared. I couldn't say what sort of repercussions he faced, but the law required that tow truck drivers confirm the car is empty before towing. This incident certainly left me and my coworkers' adrenaline pumping for a while. Despite the craziness, Chuck E. Cheese was an unforgettable experience that gifted us tales of both cheer and unpredictability. I worked at a Chuck E. Cheese when I was in high school. It was located in a pretty well-off area. One day, I had this idea that seemed quite genius at the time. On the bills, there was a note that said, "Tips are included in the cost." But the reality was they weren't. So, I thought of a clever plan. I began to meticulously fold and rip off the part of the bill that stated about included tips. I didn't act alone, though. I got my coworkers on board, and we started a strategic maneuver. We'd subtly present the bills to each other's party and mention, if you'd like to tip your host, they can only accept cash, planting the idea in the parents' minds. It worked like a charm for a while until, inevitably, we got caught. Surprisingly, it was me who took the fall. I was immediately banned from hosting parties. To my dismay, the general manager, seizing the opportunity, then hired his family and friends, allowing them to exploit the system I'd devised. It was infuriating to witness, especially after the inventive loophole I had created. But here's the kicker. My system, while short-lived, had been a gold mine. I'd pocket about $200 in cash from a single night's worth of tips. As a 16-year-old, that amount was staggering, especially considering it took me 2 full weekends of hourly wage to earn the same. It felt like I'd struck a balance between the scales of underpayment and resourcefulness. This all went down in California, a state where servers still earn the minimum wage, not the paltry $2.13 an hour. Initially, I was promised a wage of around $8.50, but this was reduced to $8 due to the expectation that I'd earn tips. This unfair practice was what drove me to outsmart the system and pave my own way. Little did I know the consequences it would bring. I worked as a technician at a Chuck E. Cheese during my high school days. It was an ordinary day when things took a wild turn. I was filling in for someone, which meant I had to don the full Chuck E. Cheese suit and perform in the show. After my appearance, as I was heading back to the employee room, a little kid dashed up excitedly, expecting a fun interaction with Chuck E. Cheese. Instead, the unthinkable happened. This kid, perhaps in a moment of sheer excitement or misunderstanding, lunged at me with a pencil in hand and stabbed me hard in the ankle. The pain shot through me like lightning. I immediately limped my way to the back room, sweating and feeling the sting from the wound. I removed the pants part of the suit, pulled down my sock, and to my shock, a noticeable amount of blood gushed out. Most people would call it a day after an experience like that, but not at this Chuck E. Cheese. Surprisingly, I wasn't sent home early. My boss simply had me stationed at the door, even though I was nursing an ankle that was oozing blood. I was just there, guarding the entrance as if nothing had happened. It was an unforgettable experience that left me with a mix of confusion and a sense of surreal disbelief.